Good morning everybody and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. Today is January the 16th, it is a Monday, and we are here to look at the movements of the planets through the runic wheel and to read our collective weird and our fate through them. And I'm also here to do some mini readings of your rune of the week for those of you who can join me live. Now I know that we don't have Suzanne today, so a couple of people have tagged me with their runes, so thank you very much if you have done that. So I've got Troy and Sally, and so yes, I hope that's everybody that's done. Lovely to see you. Karen, please do say hello in the chat box and share your rune of the week, and we will get to the readings then. The only thing I need to say today is that I have a client at 12. My diary didn't do its normal buffer between Middle Earth readings and my client sessions, so I am going to do my absolute best to get through everybody's runes, but I'm really sorry if I don't get to everybody today. If that is the case, post your rune in the group, and there are some wonderful, knowledgeable rune readers here as well who will be able to help and support with your rune for the week. Now, our theme for this week is an intriguing one. It is vengeance. Vengeance. And the reason for that is we don't actually have any planetary movements this week. We have one move into a hall. So we are moving out of Vidar's hall. Vidar is a silent god. He will kill the Fenris wolf. That's his destiny, to kill the Fenris wolf. So really he's sort of waiting for that in many ways. And his hall is said to be this beautiful wide open space, and we talked when we moved into his hall about the power of silence, about the power of completion. But this week, towards the end of the week, we are going to be moving into Varley's hall. Now, for those of you who don't know, these halls are the equivalents of the zodiac signs. So they were channeled by Freya Aswin. I've been working with them for many years now. They do add a subtlety to the runes, I have found, to the runic movements, and they do allow us to really deepen into and find the wisdom and the patronage from these deities. And I really I love working with Vida, but I have to say that one of my very special favourite gods to work with is Varley. So we are moving into Varley's hall. So Varley is another of Odin's sons, and he is born after the death of Balder, god of light, another of Odin's sons, who is murdered unintentionally by his blind brother Hod. And this puts Odin in a bind because he is obliged to seek vengeance on the murderer of his son, but he is unable to slay his son. Both Balder and Hod are his sons, and therefore he's stuck. And we get this idea of stuckness that comes through. And so he ends up not with Frigg, his queen, who is the mother of Hod and Balder, but with a giantess having another son called Varley, who grows up in the space of like 3 days. And then he slays Hod, so he carries out that vengeance. And what I wanted to look at is this theme of vengeance, because it's something that I think that many of us struggle with within the Northern tradition. So many people in this group are healers, light workers, wanting to do good in the world, wanting to offer their best. And so the idea of vengeance can seem very challenging for us. It's that question of like, where does it stop? So I wanted to dig into this a little bit because I think it's important, and it's certainly something that I have struggled with a little bit in my understanding. When I speak to Varley, he has this depth of wisdom and this brightness in his spirit. It's like this silver light that comes through when I go and I speak to him. And he reminded me today, because I said, I want to bring this piece to the group. And what he was saying to me today, he was saying, what we need to remember is that vengeance isn't an act carried out in the heat of the moment, like in a pub brawl. Someone, you said that about my mum type of thing, and then then you take vengeance and it's all horrible and it's done in the heat of the moment. vengeance was something that was considered to be a duty. And what we need to remember is that whereas today in society, if somebody does something that's wrong to you, now let's say in this instance that your child is murdered, normally now you would go to the police and they would carry out the investigation, and there is a process of justice that would work its way through. But that wasn't available to our ancestors. They were living in a time when that rule of law was still very, very tenuous, and actually this boundary between the unlawful and the lawful was the most important piece that needed to be defended, particularly by these by rulers, by leaders. Because if you didn't allow an act like murder to be checked in some way, you would be seen to be weak and easy prey. And then the forces of Utengard, outside of your little safe, your little village enclosure, whatever it is, would know, well, they're easy pickings. And you had demonstrated that you weren't able to carry out that rule of law in one way or another. And so this keeping of the scales of balance is at the heart of the requirement for vengeance. And so Odin is in a difficult place because he is required to seek vengeance for Balder, but equally he can't slay his own son. So he has to find a way around this, and Vali is born to do that. Now what Vali said to me this morning is he was saying, for you in society, and obviously this is not the case all over the world, but for many of us, particularly if you're sitting here and you're on your computer or your phone or whatever it is, and you have access to some, enough wealth to be able to do that, we have relative comfort, and we have no need to exact that type of vengeance in order to be safe. No, our safety is not in question. Somebody else has gone outside the boundaries of the law, but we are still protected by the law. It's not our job to reassert the existence of the law in that type of way. So Vali was saying, but there are still things that we need to do, that every society, every evolution of humanity, whatever it is that we are doing in the world right now, there is always a balance. There is an equivalent of vengeance, a requirement for us to take hard decisions in order to ensure survival. And so Vali asks the question, he says, what are the hard decisions? And they could be for you personally, it could be something for you to think about in society. What are the hard decisions that we need to take in order to ensure our survival moving forward? And obviously when I was thinking about this, as you know, the environment is very important to me, and so I was thinking about that we are at this point, our governments and many individuals, for whatever reason, and I put myself in that category, are not able to make willing to make the sacrifices that are necessary for us to ensure the survival of our own species. We are moving towards that, but we're moving towards it very, very slowly. And Vali is saying, well, the inevitability that our ancestors knew was that the balance will tip. If you don't take care of Inengard, of the inner space, and maintain the balance within it, Utengard will break through, the outer realm will break through and restore that balance for you. And we can see that in so many of the runes. We can see it in the Hagalaz rune, we can see it in the Thurisaz rune. To a certain extent, we can see it even in the Feyu rune, this energy that sort of stagnates if it's not flowing, the wealth energy. We see it in the Gibo rune, in the Northiz rune. It comes up over and over again as a key principle within the northern ideology, is that we are the guardians and the stewards of our society and our peoples and our future, and we have to take that seriously. We have to take responsibility for that, and it's not always easy. So through the course of this coming month, as we're in Vali's Hall, that might be something to be journaling on, something to think about, something to look at when your own runes come up. I've mentioned the environment, but there are other things in all of the causes that are out there in the world. What is it that you might be able to do one of the things that I've been thinking out, for example, is I don't know if you've ever heard about the idea of an ideal customer, that there are companies who have like their ideal customer, I don't know, middle-aged woman with 2 children who lives in Bedfordshire, something along those lines. If you are the ideal customer for an organisation, they are more likely to listen to your opinion than to anybody else's, because you represent the person that they're trying to sell to. And so writing to the company who just sent me some absolutely delicious, wonderful shampoo, which is organic and it comes in a metal bottle and it's really, really wonderful, and saying, what I'd really like is if you could send me a metal bottle that's got a steel cap on it, because I've already got one of the plunger, those pumps that you get, so I don't need you to keep on sending me the plastic pump every time you send me my replacement. Is that something you could think about? Now, it's those types of things that we can think about in terms of mini actions that we can take. So that's what Varley would like us to feel into. Balance, action, where we can perhaps give up a little bit of our time, or perhaps be, not difficult. I'm not submitting a complaint. I'm submitting a suggestion. But thinking in those ways about what are those small acts that we can take that perhaps take you outside of your comfort zone, but are going to be very important for preserving our longevity as a species, let's say. So yeah, Varley had a big topic to bring to us. Wow, I can see there's loads of people. Right, let's whip through these runes. I really want to try and get through everybody's today. So let me just start with Troy, as I know that he has posted his already. So Troy, you had Ingu's. And just to say, by the way, this is important for me. So I do the school run on a Monday morning, and then I have clients, and I come straight to Middle-earth reading. So I don't have any time to look in the group ahead of doing Middle-earth readings with all of you, which is why if Suzanne isn't here, please make sure that you tag me with my name, because then it comes up for me in my notifications what your runes are. I don't know if anyone's posted in the group, but if you've posted it in there and you haven't tagged me, I won't have had a chance to see it. I can see that a couple of people have said that others have posted, so if you know anybody, that's wonderful. Candice, thank you so much. I can see that you've got Suzanne's. Okay, Jordan, where are we? Troy, where are we? Dun, dun, dun. The Ingu's rune. It's getting my people confused there. So the Ingu's rune is the rune of the seed. I was doing some work on it yesterday, actually, so it's quite nice that I get to revisit it today. It's a really interesting rune because it's a rune of almost like voluntary vulnerability, of recognizing that in order for us to step into maturity and to step into power, we have to voluntarily make ourselves vulnerable to possible wounding. The way that Odin presents wounding, and the way that I talk about it when we do Adrazel's Path, and the way we talk about it in all of my teaching, really, when we look at wounding and all of the work we did through last year with the wounded gods, is around recognizing wounding not as something that is inherently bad, but as a contributing factor to our evolution, to our ongoing evolution. And so the Ingu's rune represents the seed that is released from the parent plant and voluntarily allows itself to be carried wherever it needs to go. So it might end up in the stomach of a bird or something, or it might end up in the deep earth. It might be on the gravel path. It might be in the good soil, the bad soil. It allows itself to fall where it must, and then wait for the right conditions to come, and then it will transform. Then that moment of transformation will arrive. So the rune is often associated with the green man, the deity of the corn, the deity of the harvest, who sacrifices themselves for the harvest. So here we have the Ingu seed. So if we think about this in the context of what Varley was saying, this might be about looking at where we stay in safety and where we feel vulnerable, and where we might be able to push ourselves just a little bit more into a space of being vulnerable, of sharing how you feel about something, or going into a space where you don't know anybody. If you think about people who are introverted or empathic, and the way that we have to choose the environments that we want to step into. And the only way we get to learn which environments are good for us and safe for us and will work for us, and what we can manage and what we can't, is by trying. and by learning through doing. So for you, Troy, I think it is about that sense of saying, well, where can I play with those boundaries? Where can I play with those edges? And deliberately choose to move into a space where I might feel vulnerable, and take that as a powerful choice within for the self. Karen Jordan, there you go. I was looking at your surname, Karen, at the same time as looking at Troy's rune. So you have Ansu's, the rune of communication. It's another, so Ingu's is a rune. It's a rune associated with Ingvi Frey, who's or Frey. And Ansu's is often associated with Odin, and we have it here. And Ansu's is a really interesting rune because it's often seen as being, this is the rune of communication. People see it there, and they take Odin as almost like an equivalent of Hermes or Mercury in that sense. But he's so much more than that. Not that I don't love Hermes and Mercury, I do. But Odin is also a sovereign deity. So he has these two strands, well, many more, but these two sort of dominant strands to his personality. This sort of wild, expansive curiosity, the practice of ecstasy, the shamanic journey, all of these things. And then he has the sovereign, who is creating order and creating the rules and being bound by them, and knowing that he needs to be bound by them, and that he must find a way to exact vengeance for Balder, even though the perpetrator was Hod. So there is this willingness to be the stability at the center, and that ability to embody both is what's coming through for me, Karen. There is that sense of saying, when a lot of the work that I do with people, I do a lot of leadership training with people, and one of the things that used to come up a lot in leadership trainings was this need to be, you must be consistent all of the time, otherwise people get confused. You must just have one clear message all of the time. Now, I don't actually agree with that. I think that you have to have a clear set of values that you stand by all the time, that guide the way that you work, and what you will do and what you will not do. But you have to have that ability and that willingness to shift the direction if the context changes, and to say, I got this wrong, or things have changed, we're going to move in this way, and to have those values stay stable, but the vision of where you're going be different. And it is this partnership between curiosity and moving out and being open and seeking advice, and the being stable in the center and saying this is where we are going, and being that place of stability, that stand, are both part of the Ansu's rune. So I think it's inviting you to have a little play with that. Karen Lauren says hello, good morning to you. Carolyn, your rune is Ansu's as well. Okay, wonderful. Now, because I've just done Ansu's, I'm going to leave you with that, Carolyn, for the moment. I'm going to see how I do when we get to 11:55, because I must finish on time. I might revisit some of the runes if something comes through. But that dual process, and the fact that you said that it focused on Odin, is, I think that's really interesting there, that Karen had that, and I gave that reading for her, and that obviously you just said that in the process of pulling it focused on Odin. And this is nothing I usually do. It's not on purpose. It just entered my mind. Go with it. Absolutely go with it. Maybe just have a look at some of his other aspects as well. Just have a little bit of a play with what's he bringing to me now, and all of the different aspects that he offers might be useful there. Candice, you have Feyu. So whereas Ansu's has got the two prongs pointing down, Feyu points up. I often see them as being the two runes that they combine together to create magical practice. Feyu being the sort of witchy, seethe, earth magics energy. Seethe is one of the magical practices of the Northern tradition, very much associated with seership and taking a direct revelatory oracular experience and wisdom from the ancestors. And Ansu's representing Galdra, the art of using the runes for spell work, and they come together. So they sort of come together with these two branches of magic. And I'm really thinking about this partnership here, given that we've just talked about Odin and his partnership. Here I'm looking at Odin and Freya's partnership. Candice, I know that you're an awakened, so you will have done the Feyu and the Ansu's modules. So you'll know about the story that of Freya coming along and bringing her value, presenting her value to Odin, and that Odin sort of, after shunning those magics comes to realize the power of them and then is said to become one of her students. And it's again that ability for the ruler to change their mind and to seek advice and counsel and mentoring from another. Really key aspect of humility in leadership. And I'm feeling with that Fey rune, it's almost that recognition that if you were to put yourself in the archetypal position of Freya there, it's recognizing your worth and recognizing that you offer something that others need and desire and that is unique and special and important. They just might not know it yet. Sometimes you have to be a bit patient with people and perhaps do a bit of work on educating them. And then Suzanne has Vunyo, which when you put the Fey rune and the Ansu's rune together and you sort of bind them together, you get a little double Vunyo rune. Sometimes people find it difficult to visualize that one. You'll have to come along to one of my classes if you want to have a little bit of help in visualizing that one, but it's very powerful when we do it. Where are you, Vunyo? So Vunyo is the rune of wishes, there we go, of the will, of family and kith and kin. And you and I was talking about Odin and his journey into ecstasy. Excuse me. So Vunyo is actually holds that space again of duality within it, which is what I'm feeling is almost that moving backwards and forwards. You know, Vali was saying we have to have that balance. That balance always needs to be preserved. So a lot of these runes are coming forward with their balancing selves. And the Vunyo rune has safety, comfort, family, all of those little rules and structures and rituals and things that mean that you know that you belong are so important to the Vunyo rune, but also it is the rune of ecstasy and wish fulfillment and joy and this sort of filling up of the new, of this life force coming through in, which is why with the Vunyo rune, it does represent those moments of just real like bliss, where you have safety and adventure hand in hand. But after the Vunyo rune, we then have Hagalaz. So Vunyo is at the end of the first 8. So it's sort of almost like a completion rune. You know, we talk about Vidar being like completion. And it's almost like Hagalaz is there in the core of Vunyo, waiting to be born, this sort of storm seed, when the new comes in and you go and you say to yourself, well, my family environment is wonderful and it's brilliant, but my teenage requirement, my soul's evolution requires me to break away from that into something new. It's like a compulsion to do that. So it's like Hagalaz births out of the Vunyo experience. And so with Vunyo, what you're going to be wanting to look for is really to feel into that those two things. What provides the rest and the peace and the comfort and the stability, and make sure that it is nurturing rather than repeating. So a lot of the work that I'm going to be doing on the Illuminate retreat, for those of you who don't know about the retreat yet, which is coming up at the end of January, it's 3 evenings of working very much on this theme of saying the person that you were in January 2022 was in a specific place, and the rituals and the ways of being that you had then have evolved, and therefore we might need to do a little work on skin shedding. And for a lot of people, they will have done that through the winter period, so we're going to be doing a little bit of work on making sure, have we done all of that, have we released everything that we need to. And then we get into this space of rawness, where we've shed one old skin but we haven't yet regrown another. So through the course of Illuminate, we were going to be looking at what is it that I need, what is this new skin that I need to wear in order to step forward into the birthing year and to bring forward those, the purpose or the dreams. Odin's coming forward and saying, he, as you know, with the planetary, he goes into retrograde reasonably frequently in order to release what is no longer serving him and to find what he needs as his next step on his journey. So Illuminate is less about creating like giddy new projects that you're going to do, that's going to come later, spring equinox time, and more about saying what's the energy that I need to be in order to carry these dreams forward into the world, in order to be the midwife of what is coming through. So with the Wunyo rune, you're looking at that. You're looking at what brings me true joy, true bliss, and what are the things that I might be repeating, but they don't bring that fulfillment anymore. So have a little look and play with that. Lauren, your rune is Bacano. I am having a nice day, indeed. Thank you. So the Bacano rune, again, we're looking into duality, and it's a nice dual rune. It comes as the second rune in the last 8. So there are 3 8s. So it's a more obviously nuanced rune than some of the earlier ones. So in the first 8, literally the first 8 runes, they tend to be quite primal in their energies, even though you can draw that those distinctions, those dualities out of them. The later ones, it's more obvious. So in Bacano, we have the birch tree, we have the spring, we have this new growth energy, but we also have the energy of the dark mother, of the deep earth from which the seed springs. So, the Ingu seed requires the Bacano seed. This is where it goes. It goes into the embrace of the dark mother, who is both life and death. So Bacano is the rune of death as well. And what I'm feeling for you, Lauren, is that sense of when we wear the cloak of death, or we might think about it as like the cloak of wintering, where we are inside ourselves, where we are breathing out that which no longer serves us, is no longer working well for us. We're giving thanks and gratitude for the things that we've achieved, the things that we've received, but we're also breathing them out, and we're making space. And I'm doing this as a daily practice at the moment, because I'm finding it really, really helpful to do that, to keep on releasing and saying, what is the next thing, and what's the next thing? And then the ideas, the new ideas that Bacano represents, those new shoots, have room to grow. It's a bit like weeding, If you don't do your weeding and you don't clear the space, the new shoots don't have any room to grow, because of all of the overgrown stuff. And often a lot of the dead stuff as well. That's why we do our gardens, don't we? We go and start to move things out, and we do that gently, and we don't do that completely in winter time, because we need those old husks and the mulch and everything else to protect the seeds and the new growth until it's ready to come through. So it's not the question of I've said this before, haven't I? We don't wake up on the 1st of January and we're just ready. I'm ready now. It's a slow process. So at the moment, we're very gently working on the Bacano rune and being the tender and being the new shoot at the same time. So have a little play with that, Lauren. Excuse me. Share, I can see that you have got Bacano also, but it's lying down. So flat bottom and points, the points are going upwards. Let me see if there's just anything in there around the Bacano rune. To me, it almost feels like support. It feels like the Bacano rune representing like the land, the Divine Mother in this sense, is it's patience. It's real patience, and saying, I'm waiting for the rain. I'm not going to put my energy out there into the world until the rain has come. It's that the earth reaching up to the sky and asking for its magic. So there is something there about opening to support and trusting that it will come. The rain will always come. And the best that we can do with the Bacano rune is to create a space in which we are ready to receive it. So look at, am I opening myself up to the support that's available? Is there more that I can do to make that, make myself like obviously ready for support in all different ways? So just have a look at the things that you need in your life right now, and think about, maybe just do a bit of journaling on what would great support look like for me. Don't try and do the stuff. Almost like you're doing a vision board or something. What would fabulous support look like for me for the different areas of my life? And have a little play with that. So let's go back to Maggie now with Largus you've got, which is a lovely complementary rune with Bacano. They're both often considered to be feminine runes. But Bacano, by the way, is one of the runes very strongly associated with Loki. So it can be feminine energy. It doesn't mean female. Right, it's just a particular type of energy. So we have Largus here, which is a different type of nurturing magical energy. It's the energy of water. So whereas Bacano is like the earth and it's waiting for the rain. Lagoos is the water. It can be the waterfall, it can be the rushing water, it can be the stream, it can be the well. And I'm almost feeling for you, Maggie, there is that, I did this piece of work, I think it was 2 years ago now. I think it was when we were working with the Hearths of the Seigneur on tracking water sources in my local area as an act of devotion, and actually realizing how difficult it was to, other than the rivers that are named, and I can go and I can research what their names mean. See, there's lots of springs, and we used to know where all of the wells were in our land and things, and we just don't anymore. They've been covered up. We don't know our land. And there is, for me, a real practical devotion to water. So it is about drinking water, about opening yourself to receiving the blessings of water when you're washing your hands, when you're in the shower, when you're running a bath. If it's raining, see if you can go out in the rain. There's a real offering of like potent magical force and energy that is coming through for you there with the Lagoos rune, Maggie. So have a little play with that. I'm really feeling at this point the Sally's coming through. So let's see what rune you've got. Here we go. It's the Rado rune. There we are. The Rado rune of the road, of ritual, of rhythm. And as I'm feeling a slight constriction, Sally Ann, in my, it's around the sort of solar plexus area. It's almost like a tightening. It feels as if that moment where you go, wow, I've got so many things that I want to do this year that I don't know where to start. And the idea of creating any form of routine is actually overwhelming, because I think, well, it might be the wrong one, or if I do it this slowly, I'm not going to get everything done, or what if I go in the wrong direction? What if the road is the wrong one? And I'm reminded, I don't know who the quote is from. If somebody knows who the quote is from, let me know. But this idea that we always overestimate what we can get done in a day and underestimate what we can get done in a year. So it's a little bit off. It's a bit off to the side, but the Rado rune is basically saying the energy of the day, the Dargaz rune, and the energy of the year, the Yara rune, are not the same. And so there's almost like a mindset thing that needs to happen where you say, okay, the pattern of the day is not an indicator of the potential for success that you will achieve through the year. So stop feeling like if you don't achieve everything, if you have a day where you're lying down or you don't achieve everything you're going to do, that is a foreboding portent that you won't achieve everything that you want to through the year, because it is not true, is what the Rado rune is saying. Saying on a journey, there are days when you go slow, there are days when you go fast, there are days when you hitch a lift, there are days when you find a shortcut. Trust in that. So it's actually saying work with the Rado rune not as a sort of steady rhythm, which is sometimes we can really feel that it's like a drum that's going and going and going, and therefore it's like I've got to keep pace. And think about it more as a journey with very different terrains, very different weather, very different energy levels, and just be in the moment that you're in now. And I think it's in Iceland, they always say, you can always, if it's bad weather, the one thing you can guarantee is that in an hour's time it will be different. It might be worse, it might be better, but it will be different. It's that sort of thing. It's saying, do what I do now, focus in the moment, is what the Rado rune is offering to you. So we've done Lauren with Bacana, we've done Maggie with Lagoos, Share, we've done Bacana for you. Darcy, you have Mana, so we're getting a lot of because I can see that Lisa's got Elwaz underneath as well. So we're getting a lot of the final 8 here. These runes that tend to combine a lot of the other energies because they are runes of maturity. If you imagine that the first 8 is those primal energies, or that sort of childhood period, and then the second 8 is like the challenge period, the initiatory period, the change and like teenagerhood or young adulthood, and then when we move into the final 8, we're moving into maturity and sovereignty, and being able to see both sides of the picture often comes through. And the Manas rune being the sovereign self, or the divine human, combines in it. You can see you've got 2 Wunyo runes there. So remember Suzanne's Wunyo rune, and I was talking about that sort of ecstasy and belonging and ecstasy and moving in and moving out. They both offer different forms of leadership, but with Manas it is that real sense of wholeness, that you are whole in the moment and you're able to apply all different aspects of your intelligence, your intuition, your intellect, your instincts to a problem. You have no fear of asking other people for solutions if you don't have the answers. And I think, again, it's just offering a little bit of a change of perspective, similar to the Rado rune. So as I was talking there, instead of feeling up here like I felt with Sally Ann, sort of solar plexus feeling, I think that was you, Sally Ann, I'm feeling much lower down, much closer to the sort of sacral plexus underneath the belly button. It was almost this jump in my tummy, like a stage fright almost with the Manas rune. And there are moments when we are called to step out of our comfort zone, to do something difficult, to do something that we don't feel that we're ready for. You know, it's that feeling when we do a presentation or we're going about to do a speech, or I don't know, sing at a wedding or something like that, and we're just like, oh, I'm not ready. And the Manas rune says, everything that you have done up until this moment has been preparing you for this very moment. And it's that sense in which you might not have all the answers, you might not know how it's going to go, but you know that you have been chosen to do it, and that everything that has been happening up until this moment is preparing you for this moment. So it's the sense in which we step into sovereignty in those moments, and we recognize that, you know, if you're going to go and do a presentation or something, that it's not about you. It's about the people who are receiving from you. And all you need to do is to be in sovereignty. So when I work with clients, we work on presence, and we work on, you know, the imagining the crown and the robes and the physical presence of being in sovereignty, because then it becomes about the service that you're offering and less about everyone's going to think that I'm ridiculous if I'm going to mess this up, I'm going to forget my words, I'm going to do this. Obviously, Darcy, I don't know if you're doing a speech, but that was the feeling that I got, was this like, I'm not ready. And it's that sense of saying, with the Manas rune, we step back up we move back into the heart center. Garnet's really great to wear for the Manas rune. I've charged a lot of garnets up in my life with the Manas rune before interviews, for example. Finding where your confidence is, and perhaps also recognizing that when we get that little flip of the tummy, fear and excitement are very, very close to each other biologically in terms of the way we see them. So if you feel that, I'm not really feeling that comes up in the body, name it as excitement. You know, oh, I'm excited for this opportunity. Then Lisa has Ewaz. So Ewaz comes just before, just before Manas. So it's the rune of partnership. So whereas with Manas you're drawing everything in, and then you're taking leadership in the moment, you're owning the space, the Ewaz rune is about that ability to move backwards and forwards between who is leading and who is following. Very useful for any form of relationship, to recognize that often we can get stuck into a rut of the way that things are done, and when we embody that Ewaz energy, we move back into our intuitive spaces, we move back into the realm of the body, and we allow ourselves to follow when we want to. So it's a great balancing rune. You know, we've been talking about balance the whole time. Maybe you've like Odin recognizing, well, I can't do this for myself, so who do I need to be my partner in this, who could support me in doing this? Who else is there? What advice is available to me? And recognizing that sometimes the mind is, in our society, is often seen as being that you should use your mind. It's like mind over matter. Otherwise it's like, no, not mind over matter. It is always about partnership. It is always about saying that everyone has something of value to offer, but if we don't follow our instincts of like, when is somebody going to speak, when am I going to hold back, when am I going to allow myself to be led, we can't get anywhere. So the act of following, the act of letting somebody else take the reins for a while, literally think about Ewaz as being the rune of the rider and the steed, forward motion can occur. If we say, no, I'm going to do it, and the other person says, no, I'm going to do it, it doesn't get done. So for me, the Ewaz rune is very much counselling that where could you step back more and allow others to lead more, or where would you like that to be the case? And that could be quite a big piece there potentially around going, oh, you know, where would I like it if I didn't have to do so much of the thinking or so much of the, you know, the leading in this area, and what's stopping that from coming? And the Ewaz rune will help with that, following your instincts and your intuitions. Patricia, you have Kinaz, the rune of the creator, of knowing, knowledge. Here we go. It's the torch of enlightenment shining through the darkness. And Pamela also has Kinaz, so I'm going to do that for you as well. Pamela, at this point, because I am aware that I only have 10 more minutes. Excuse me. Oh, so with the Kinaz rune, Kinaz is an interesting one because it's the rune of transformation and manifestation. It is, it can be receiving knowledge inwards and us becoming like the cauldron, the crucible, where it changes and then it needs to move back out again. It's very similar to Feiyu in that it needs to keep moving, and what am I trying to say here? It represents physical change in all of its forms. You remember I was talking about wounding earlier on, and often we see wounding as being something negative, something difficult, something challenging. But for Kinaz, wounding itself is a form of transformation. It's neither good nor bad. Sometimes people say that they think about Kinaz as being like the coloration of all things, like the way that metals change when they are forged. But it's also the discoloration of the body when we are ill. And it's that blooming hue of the body when we are well. So Kinaz force is channeling and moving through us all of the time. And the Kinaz rune itself doesn't say, well, the transformation when everything is looking blooming and wonderful is the one that I'm looking for, is the good one, and the one where we are ill and perhaps we're like white, or we've got the livid red lips, or there's a bruise on the skin, isn't necessarily a bad thing, because once a wound has occurred or illness has occurred, the body will naturally try and to bring itself back into healing. So for Kinaz, a wound or a challenge or a difficulty, a place of uncomfortableness, is immediately an opportunity for transformation, an opportunity to step back into healing. So Patricia and Pamela, I'm going to leave that with you. It's that sense of looking for the Kinaz energy of transformation, and bringing that sense of, almost like you step behind yourself when you look at the space around you and you say, okay, where is the Kinaz energy here and present around me in this space? Where is transformation occurring, or where would it like to occur right now? And how can I be more of that agent for change? How can I, there's a bit of half tending going on, sort of moving stuff around. Well, that feels better to me, or this feels better to me, or what can I do if, my body's not feeling great, it's feeling, I'm feeling sort of pale and cold and coming, that's the Kinaz energy coming through. What is it asking of me? And I'm thinking almost like balancing the humours here is coming along. There's a really cold energy. Where can I get that warmth from? Recognising Kinaz. Very similar to Meggie, I think, with the Lagu's energy. It's just saying, start to bring some presence to where Kinaz energy is around you in the moment, perhaps doing some meditation on that, or doing some meditation, movement meditation as well, with that energy of creativity, manifestation, change and transformation, and finding the Kinaz energy. Just as like lighting a candle, that is an act of transformation, of transforming the fuel and oxygen into something else, and that's Kinaz. Let me see, so Esther, Troy we've done, which is great. So Erica, we've got Northeast, Jean, we've got Iwaz, and for you we've got Perthrow. So Erica, with your Northeast rune, that rune of necessity and need here, it's that burning desire. I'm brought back to the Varley story again here. It's about that those hard choices that need to be made, and I think for you it is almost there's a looking back and saying, when have I become the embodiment of the North's energy for myself or for others? When have I stood in that place? So almost seeing Odin as being the North's energy there, that I'm imagining him going out in the night, lighting the fire and saying, you know, I need a way through this, bring that. And then when he saw it, he followed it. So it's that sense for you, it's almost honouring that within yourself and saying, when have I done that? When have I lit the need fire within, felt the direction that it called me in, and pursued it, and embodied that sense of, and become the destiny or the instrument of North is coming through for you. Then Jean with Iwaz again. Whereas so North is the need fire, and Iwaz, I'm thinking about it's that fire's keeper. We've just moved out of the half month of Iwaz. We're now in Perthro, which I know is Esther's rune. So there is that sense of stability, that sense of being a stand for something that's important. Of, you know, even if everybody else is saying, oh, we're all going to go in this direction, this is what we're feeling. It's saying to yourself, if that feels a little bit uncomfortable, perhaps I need to stay here. Allowing yourself to not be moved or persuaded, rooting deep in the earth and feeling into yourself. So there's a little bit of a play there with the North's rune, but it's recognizing that the Iwaz rune is a response. Seeing Odin like standing with his staff once he knew what he needed to do and saying, I will do this. And the Iwaz rune does that. So it's tenacity, holding on to your values. We were talking about that earlier. And not allowing yourself to be distracted comes through with the Iwaz rune. Whereas for Esther with Perthro, that is a much more flowing energy. There is almost a sense in which, what could the distractions be offering you right now? If you are finding that you're becoming distracted, or your thoughts are going in a particular direction, or whatever it is that you want to be doing, for whatever reason you're not doing it, spend some time looking at what is it that those distractions or those like desires, what is it that they are speaking of? You know I spent too much time last week playing with a very bizarre computer game where I got to harvest stuff and plant things and stuff, and it was very predictable. And when I was struggling with a task that I didn't want to do, I would just be like, oh, I should just spend 5 minutes playing with this game that appeared on my phone because my children have been playing it. I know it's ridiculous, but I sat back and I was like, okay, so what is it that this is offering me? And I realised that for me it was that soul, my soul care was a little bit lacking, and I needed that predictability and a bit of half care and tending and a little bit of tidying that for whatever reason I was projecting into a computer game where I got to harvest stuff and grow things. It's like I don't know if anyone remembers Sims. I used to do Sims a long time ago. Yeah, so it was just calling. So it's like paying attention to those distractions and saying, what are they pointing me towards? So Pamela, we've done your Keenaz room, which is great. Yes, thank you, Esther. I've done Sally Ann's. That's fantastic. Michelle, good morning to you. Amy, you have got Bacano. So I've done Bacano twice. So I'm not going to do that one again because I only got 3 minutes left. Morning to you, Bhavna. Carolyn says, thank you. I think I already figured out the meaning, fancies and Odin. So excellent. That's good. Feel empowered by this start in the week, and I have to look at my notes for awakening. Excellent. Good. I'm pleased. Candice, really interesting. Great. Karen says, that's spot on. Lauren, thank you. Fabulous. Carol, Weave Lane. Hello. So you've got Isa. I'm going to do that. Did I see a Hargalaz a minute ago? I think I saw a Hargalaz. No, I can't spot it. Chen. It was Chen. Okay. Hargalaz. Isa. Let's see what else we've got. We've got another Isa. Great. We're going to do Hargalaz and we're going to do Isa, and then we've got to the end. Hi, Flora. Lovely to see you. You've also got Isa, so that is wonderful. So Hargalaz and Isa, the two runes at the very beginning of the second 8, that 8 of challenge that I was talking about. Hargalaz North is Isa, I should say, apologies. So Hargalaz, the rune of change that I was talking about, if you think about when I was talking about Suzanne's rune being Runyo, and that sense in which the Hargalaz rune comes and it says, okay, you've got quite comfortable now and you've started to explore a little bit, and now I'm going to just throw a spanner in the works because that's the way that you learn. You know, we talked about going and doing the thing, the presentation or the interview. So it's looking for what the challenge is, looking at the bigger picture. You know, we can get very, very focused in on the individual hailstones. So Hagalaz represents the hailstones, these little hail seeds. We can get very focused in on the damage that they're doing in the moment, and it can be quite difficult to step back and say, okay, so what's the weather pattern that has created this Hagalaz, and what's the purpose for the Hagalaz moment? And I'm not suggesting that there always is a particularly comfortable, you know, the gods are out there and they're doing this and they're doing that, it's all their fault. But in order for us to step into power, when we choose to say, what's the purpose behind this? What's the purpose that I want to create around this? What's the meaning that I want to create around this? Then we can step back into a place that is more powerful. So it's looking for underlying patterns, underlying behaviors. I'm spotted myself doing something that I've done again, you know, and I'm finding that again. It's seeing those moments, those sort of Hagalaz moments where something is really, really challenging and difficult, as being at times when we are exposed, when we get to see ourselves the most clearly. I remember doing it was like a leadership day with loads of women. We were doing it, and somebody said, the best learning you're going to get from this day is when you fail. So if you're not able to recognise that you've failed and go with it, you're not going to get the learning. And on me and my group, we failed spectacularly. Well, I think we were the best failures in the group by far. And we were all sort of like, oh no, it's terrible. And I remember this point of just sort of saying to myself, okay, I can choose to believe that the fates were stacked against us and it was never going to work, or la 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 la, or I can choose to take the learnings. It's that bit a little bit. So, you know, there's some mindset work there. Whereas Isa, we have that stillness and that calm coming through very strongly, that place of ice and serenity that is coming through. And that's literally what I'm feeling for you, Carol, and for you, Flora. It's almost that sense in which if the world is slowing down around you, or things aren't happening in the way that you want them to, the more you're able to deepen into that stillness and embrace it and accept it, the quicker you'll move through it. It's that sense in which if we keep pushing and trying to bring the fire energy and to get rid of the ice, whatever it's representing or bringing to you will keep trying to assert itself. So give yourself a little bit of time each day in the Isa energy. Do some meditation, I'm going to be totally still right now. Allow it to come in and embrace it. What is it that Isa wants to bring me? What is it that the stillness wants to bring me? And then breathe it out and say, okay, you know, and then, you know, if we go back to Vali, who we talked about at the very beginning, Vali would say, when we deepen fully into the realm of ice, it is inevitable that the realm of fire will follow. You know? Whereas if we keep pulling away from the realm of ice, we don't get to be in that space, and then the wheel doesn't turn and the fire doesn't come. So mindfulness and meditation there. Darcy says, perfect, nervous about the tech with the new online course. Oh, wonderful. So yes, that does make sense then. Maggie says, time for a walk on the beach. Esther says, thank you. Michelle says, Animal Crossing for you. Yeah, Sims, Animal Crossing. There's always something, isn't there? So with that in mind, I am going to go off and work with my lovely client. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Esther, it was that brought other people's dreams. I really, really appreciate it. Many blessings for you for the week ahead. If you are interested in the Illuminate retreat, which starts on the 30th of January, it's on a Monday, 8 o'clock London time. There's going to be 3 sessions each Monday, where we are really looking to deepen into what it is that we need to shed and what it is that we need to bring in order to step most powerfully into the year ahead. It's going to be the focus of what we're doing there. I'm really excited about it. You can go to the Mag and Rose website, look under Dream Will events and programs, and you will see all of the information there. Lovely to see all of you. Many blessings, and see you all very soon.